What should alarm you, folks, is that we are hanging on just by a thread. That's scary. And you can only scam, lie, cheat, kill, manipulate the numbers as much as you can before the rest of the world wakes up and realizes the emperor has no clothes and they're done playing this BS nonsense. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a complete realignment going from fictitious falsehood into actual truth and reality.
Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in. It's great to have you back. And as we look ahead to the new year in 2016, who better to have on than our friend V, the Guerrilla Economist from roguemoney.net. We last spoke to V in July 2015, and I'm just thrilled to have him back. V, how are you, sir?
Sean, doing great, man. Just hopefully everybody's well rested from this holiday season, got all the shopping done, and I gained a few pounds, and here we are, entering the last final hours of 2015.
Yeah, and with 2016 barreling at us like a steam engine, V, I thought it would be great to get your perspective on the year ahead. And before we do that, I just want to remind everybody that they can follow you on Twitter at the Rogue Money. And actually, I did notice in our last interview, somebody asked if you had a YouTube channel.
You know what? I should get one up. 2016, I want to do some new media things, so I think YouTube is definitely on the menu.
All right, you got to go and lock down V, the Guerrilla Economist, right now before this interview is even released. You got to lock down a name for yourself there on YouTube, V. All right, my friend, well, it's just a thrill to have you. You know, your perspective on economics and really spiritual warfare and all of the things that are important to those of us who follow the New World Order and the death of the dollar as we document the collapse. People really look to you, V, for perspective. So I wanted to ask you just a few things about the year ahead, starting with time frame for the economic collapse. Now, I was just watching a piece with Mike Maloney from the Silver Summit, and the host, the person that asked him this particular question, was a bit hostile about the economic collapse and the timing of it. And I think more and more people are getting hostile towards those of us who have been talking about collapse because, thank God, actually, so far the collapse hasn't happened. What is your time frame for the economic collapse and the ultimate fall of the dollar?
Well, you know what? One of the things we've been saying for a while is by the end of 2015, the dollar will be undermined. We never said collapse; we said undermined. And here's the key point: undermining meaning that it's going to lose its prestige. The U.S. reputation is going to be tarnished. Because let's be honest here, what is really backing up the United States dollar? It's the full faith and confidence of what the United States government. And we've seen a lot of things occur globally where alternative trade unions have set up where they decided they were going to trade without the dollar. You've had financial institutions being created like the AIIB, the New Development Bank, formerly known as the BRICS Development Bank. These things have all risen up to such prominence to challenge the dollar, and we're seeing the petrodollar, the very petrodollar that we've depended on since the early '70s, being really challenged. So you want to talk about undermining? It's a massive undermining. The manipulations that were at work within the dollar that have caused the dollar index to skyrocket. One of the things, a term that I like to coin is called monetary hypoxia. And I often mention, and I've said this, and a few other pundits have said this as well, that right before this thing goes pop, you're going to see the dollar climb higher and higher. The USDX is not going to make any sort of sense because there's no reason for it. There's no fundamentals anymore, Sean. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing that occur, and we are exactly on schedule. We're exactly on schedule. You look at the beatdown of oil prices. Now, I think it was Bank of America or I forgot which of the banks have come forward with their analysis on oil, or was it City? I just don't remember at the moment. I got too much fruitcake and eggnog in my system. But one of the things that was said was, we can foreseeably see oil dip into the $20 bracket. Mm-hmm. And all this is happening. Saudi Arabia is adamant, and they're putting out a lot of false info saying that they can sustain it. They're totally sustainable. But the Saudis are running out of cash. They're burning through cash at an alarming rate. So this whole petrodollar system is being threatened. It's being dismantled. The entire system is collapsing. The power structure that we know of is collapsing on a global stage. So the answer for a lot of people that says, when is the collapse happening? When is the collapse happening? Well, it's been happening. Yeah. It's been happening for a while now. You haven't been paying attention. It's been happening all around you. The signs all around. When is the collapse happening? Well, let's put it this way. Every major firm that tracks unemployment, and I like to quote Evolution Consulting on their stats. They're probably a little bit more even accurate than Shadow Stats in some regards. They peg the unemployment rate at 34.6.
Wow.
Massive, massive. So you take a figure like that, and then the most conservative figures puts us anywhere between 23 to 25%. Either way you cut it, we have already blown the records from the Great Depression out of the water. Okay, I mean we have double the population today than when we had in the 20s during the Great Depression. So for us to exceed the amount of people unemployed, it's horrific. That's a sign of a collapse. You got 101 million on welfare. You got 50 million or so on food stamps. And granted, there is some overlap there. 95 million permanently unemployed. This is all signs of a collapse. So people don't need to look much further. If people are looking for the ridiculous stock market, which has no bearing on reality or fundamentals for that thing to pop, you got to understand that's the last shoe to drop.
Right.
Look at the consumer price index. That's collapsing. Look at manufacturing. That's non-existent. The latest numbers show that the middle class is no longer the majority. It's gone. Okay, so my thing is, what are people? All these people saying, hey, you know what? Where's the collapse? Where's the collapse, folks? It's here. If you're waiting for the Dow to go pop, well, I'd say wait until maybe 2017 or so. Okay, because 2016 is going to be very interesting, and I think sometime during 2017, maybe the second half of 2017, this thing could very well go belly up. The point is this, folks. Okay, it's the whole hanging by a thread argument. All right, you could say a lot of people say we're hanging on by a thread. Okay, well, yeah, we're hanging on by a thread. What should alarm you, folks, is that we are hanging on just by a thread. That's scary. That's enough for you to take the proper precautions and actions needed for you to weather what's ahead. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not like, we're sitting, here, me and Sean, we're talking here on, a few days before the new year. And and people are like, well, when are you guys going to talk about the collapse? Folks, we've been talking about it. Sean's been talking about it. He had guests on that talking about it. I've talked about it. It's here. It's happening. It's not a far off pie in the sky idea. It's a living everyday reality. You just need to look at the numbers.
Yeah, that's really powerful, V, and I couldn't agree with you more because as I say when we interview others like Andy Hoffman and Bill Holter, that we're documenting the collapse. We've been documenting the collapse. I mean, the Baltic Dry Index just hit an all-time
forget
low.
about it.
Global trade is falling apart, and you mentioned the unemployment rate. I want to hit on that a little bit because it's so important. If John Williams uses the statistics and the norms of accounting used under the Reagan administration, and he comes up with 22 to 25% unemployment, and this other source you have is pinning it towards 30 to 35%. What people need to understand is that the U.S. economy has already been outsourced, right? The guts of our economy has already been outsourced to China. So there really will never be a recovery unless that manufacturing comes back. And so when we talk about unemployment, we should also talk about underemployment because the poor guy that lost his $110,000 a year job at Hewlett Packard or Dell or 3M, who now has to take a job at Lowe's, Home Depot, or Walmart, and I think Walmart's the largest employer in the United States, that guy is barely making ends meet, and he probably already lost his house. How do you raise a family when you were making $100,000 on your Walmart salary? So the underemployment factor in this country is a real concern too, isn't it? And the government doesn't really talk about that, do they, V?
No, and nobody counts it because once you're past 3 months on unemployment, they stop counting you. They don't count you if you're underemployed. Meaning, you had a job just like what Sean said. You had a high income. Now you're working a full time job, maybe two or three additional part time jobs, what have you, trying to make ends meet, and you still can't. You still can't make ends meet. You can barely survive. That's underemployment, and nobody counts on that. Nobody talks about that. So when those figures are put in, the guys from Evo Consulting, that's how they peg their real unemployment rate. Because let's be honest here, people just can't. These aren't real productive jobs. These aren't you flipping burgers at McDonald's. That's not a real job. That's almost a transient type of position. For younger people to get into higher positions in life later on. It's not meant to be a career. It's not meant to as a stop off. It's terrible what's happening. I mean, my God, no. Here's another thing nobody talks about, Sean. Shadow inventory, and when it comes to homes. Nobody talks about that anymore. Nobody talks about the fact we still have probably a little over 20 million in shadow inventory just sitting there in homes foreclosed on, just sitting there, and homes that have been built with these new developments out in the middle of nowhere that's just empty.
Hmm.
People talk about shadow cities in China. There's shadow neighborhoods in the United States.
But the government counts that towards GDP, right? And they say, look at this
Oh
healthy
yeah,
economy. The building sector is very healthy, new home starts, blah, 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 blah. But meanwhile, a lot of these homes are sitting empty.
right. And mortgage applications are collapsing. You look at the
Mm-hmm.
mortgage application rates at the lowest they've been since 1965. Again, in
Mm-hmm.
1965, you had a population of 115 million. Today, we have double that amount. And it's catastrophic what's happening. Where's the collapse? Well, there's another figure that we can pull out and show throw in front of people's faces as here's a collapse. There you go. I mean, it's tremendous. And Sean, here's the thing: the banks have strategically done that. Now, when I was working for one of the banks, what we've done is we've eliminated our entire mortgage department. We had a mortgage department. This is at one time, one of the largest investment banks in the world, and one of our subsidiaries in the U.S. We just eliminated the entire mortgage sector. You had a department of maybe 5,000 people. They gutted it down to maybe 200, intentionally creating a bottlenecking system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the whole robo signing scandal came out and all that other stuff with mortgages. They've done that intentionally because the banks cannot allow that much inventory to drop into the market. It'll collapse real estate overnight. So it's bubble on top of bubble on top of manipulation, and the things that people need to understand, it's like toying with nature. You could toy with nature, you can screw around with the environment as much as you want, but there's a point where God says enough's enough,
Right.
and nature comes back, and it doesn't just teach you a lesson; it slaughters you.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, it slaughters you. It just wipes you out. That's the way it is.
Right. Andy Hoffman calls that economic mother nature. The principles of economic mother nature have
Yes.
to come back into play eventually, right? We're so far past the norms here with all
Oh,
of these bubbles. Eventually, there's going to be a reset. Now, I just want to circle back and talk about the time frame for collapse just briefly because, we mentioned the outsourcing of the U.S. economy and the fact that all of this has been done by design with NAFTA, with these trade agreements under the table, with TPP. It's only going to get worse if the people sit back and allow this to happen. More will be farmed out. And it seems to me, V, that it's all been done by design. And I continue to go back to the 1988 cover of The Economist magazine, which showed a phoenix rising from a pile of burning fiat dollars with a chain and a gold medallion around its neck. And the cover said, get ready for a new world currency in
and the date was
2018. And it had
2018.
gold coin around its neck. So, if the Rothschild Economist magazine has been saying now for almost 3 decades, get ready for a global currency in 2018, to me, V, that seems like a pretty good timeline to take a
Yes.
look at the death of the dollar.
Yes, it is because this running charade, it can't go any further. I mean, picture if you will, like you have this magic show, okay, and the first couple of times, let's say you have a magic show and it's done by a broke magician, okay, the guy's broke, he can't afford to buy new equipment. Now he can run his tricks and his illusions so far before his illusions and his equipment and his props begin to break down. It's all good at the beginning, but now people see that hey, you know what? His props are torn. They're falling apart. It's no longer the illusion.
Right.
People could see clearly what this guy's doing. It's the same thing with the U.S. They've manipulated the numbers since for forever, to be honest with you. But since 2008, since the collapse, they've been really jacking up the numbers and manipulating to, as much as they could. But now it's pretty obvious that the magician's out of parlor tricks. Now, I mean, think about it. Nobody, don't I've been saying for a long time that they can't raise the rates. They can't raise the rates. Raising the rates is suicide. And all of a sudden, the Fed on December the 16th decided to go ahead and raise the rates by 25 basis points, okay? Which is suicidal. So my question is, where do they got the marching orders from? Who gave them the orders to go ahead and raise rates, knowing what it will do to the economy? This is a stupid move, especially if you have, pedal to the metal philosophy of printing dollars out of thin air continuously for 24 hours. So at some point, somebody somewhere says, you know what, enough's enough, which kind of reminds me of, if you remember, that gentleman from Texas. I think it was Kyle Bass, who
Yeah.
who had one of the Obama administration guys, which I believe was Tim Geithner, who said flat out, "We're going to kill the dollar."
Yeah.
When I asked a senior member of the Obama administration last week, how are we going to grow exports if we won't allow nominal wage deflation? And he says, we're just going to kill the dollar. And I said, okay, more you mean?
This is the way you do it. When you look at the Fed rate hike, when you look at, TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which I like to call the toilet paper protocols, because it's really not any sort of a trade agreement. Any trade agreement that does not involve China and the BRICS is a joke. It's a joke. So what it is basically survival for American corporations. In other words, folks, between the Fed rate hike, between TPP, between TTIP, is basically American interests and American corporations trying to bail out the ship. They're trying to, these are the proverbial rats leaving the ship, so to speak, and they're trying to swim to something else. And it's not going to work because the world is done with fascism. The world's done with it. They're sick of Western of fascism running rampant.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's being transpired here is absolutely, I mean, it's insanity. It's absolute insanity, Sean, because these guys are going to kill the dollar, and that's exactly what, again, this time frame that we keep talking about. I think it fits, man. I think all of those arrows and those clues, and you know what, best, that old saying, "Best laid plans of mice and men." But all those arrows are pointing to a 2017 climax, when something new will emerge in 2018. That's that. I feel strongly about that.
Right. It's interesting to hear you say that the world is turning against fascism and U.S. imperialism, and they're abandoning the dollar, and we see quantifiable evidence of it as Russia and China band together to transact between themselves, excluding dollars. I mean, all of the signs of the dollar collapse are in place, and the last stop, I guess, V, at this point that has prevented it is the Fed, the buyer of last resort. So that's why we haven't seen an overt economic collapse in this country yet, which has kept the prices of gold and silver when priced in dollars very low, which is good news. That's the good news we can share with the audience, even though those of us who have bought silver all along the way for the past 4 or 5 years have been hurt by the manipulation of the cartel. But I do want to ask you about Putin. I want to ask you about global politics and your take on Putin. I've been giving Putin credit for the things that he's been doing to stand up and speak truth against U.S. imperialism, against U.S. and Pentagon lies about what's going on in Syria, about what's going on in Ukraine. And I take a lot of heat in the comments because so many people will say Putin's just a puppet just like all the rest. But I like to give credit where credit's due, V, and I'd really like your take on that. If Putin's a puppet, then he's a damn good actor. What's your take on Putin?
I personally believe that this is a guy that was never part of the plan. I think that when you look at, the New World Order, quote unquote, you have it centralized within the Anglo-American power structure. That is the central focus of it. Okay. Um, the Russians and the Russian people in general have learned a hard lesson. They have learned not only through the brutality of communism, but they've learned exactly who it is that helped fund these Bolshevik revolution and had communism set up. And the fingerprints were all Western bankers. They have a very keen understanding and idea of that. It's shocking to me that you go to Russia and their media outlets talk about 9/11. They talk about terrorism and who funds it and what really happened. And I mean, things that we would consider from mainstream Americans to be conspiracy theory. It's common knowledge in Russia. Putin. Okay, let's take a look at this. This is a guy. Look, nobody's perfect. He's got his things, but in terms of you saying that we're giving credit where credit's due. If this guy's some sort of a puppet, right? Mm-hmm. If he's a puppet, he is doing everything in his power to prevent war. Okay, I mean, these guys are all about order out of chaos, right? These guys want to create as much chaos as possible, as much as death and destruction as possible. His country that he's governing is a country that actually values human life. Okay, they care about that. I had a conversation with a former ex-KGB gentleman, and one of the things that he's told me was this. He's like, we have elites as well in Russia. But the difference between our elites and your elites is this. Number one, we value human life. Number two, we don't get the obsession that your elites have with homosexuality and pedophilia. We just don't understand that. In fact, we despise and hate it. So yes, are we elites? Yes, we are elites. And yes, we like wealth and we like all these things, but we love our people. We love being Russian. And that's the thing that's complete anathema to the New World Order. The New World Order hates nation states. So all of a sudden, for Russia to rise up and reclaim its national identity, reclaim its fervor for who and what they are, it really is a monkey wrench. And the fact that you look at what Putin's doing, okay, and you got to also understand there has been some Rothschild casualties in this. He's thrown out the Rockefellers, he's thrown out the Rothschilds. I think 2 or 3 Rothschilds have already been killed. Okay, so there is a power play here, folks. And people could interpret, oh, look, he's gathering the forces into the Middle East. It's going to be the Battle of Armageddon. There's a lot of really bad exegesis being used in applying eschatological scriptures to modern events. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are taking that and mixing it with some outlandish conspiracy theories and saying that everybody's controlled, everybody's a puppet. Everybody's not controlled. Mm-hmm. Everybody's not a puppet. Nobody has that level of control. Not even Lucifer. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, he'd be God. I mean, give me a break, So I think people give too much credit to the enemy and too much credit to the bad guys mm-hmm. and what they're capable of doing. Putin's not part of the plan, and neither is what the Chinese are doing. The BRICS and what they're doing. And think about what they're pushing here: openness in trade, honesty in development, in banking, and what they want everything open. Who wants everything closed? Who wants to put fancy labels on things like theft and call it rehypothecation? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, who does that but the West? Who's out there bombing countries? We are. Who's out there pillaging resources? We are. Who's overthrown 30 democratically elected countries in 50 years? We are. Who's done all these things? We are. Who's using this global war on terror as a pretext to go and do whatever the heck we want? We are. Who's manipulating the currency? We are. Who's creating all sorts of NGOs and subterfuge and overthrowing various nations throughout the world using color revolutions? We are. It's not the Russians. It's not the Chinese. In fact, China hasn't invaded anybody.
Mm-hmm. You're giving me goosebumps here because what you're saying, V, is resonating with me and probably the audience here so much. And I just want to hit on a couple of things. You're absolutely right in that one of the historians and people that we speak to often, Harley Schlanger, is a guy I really respect. And Harley
I love Harley. He's a buddy of mine.
Oh, he's a great guy. And Harley has said, Obama is very weak. Obama is a puppet, and so are the rest of these people. Dianne Feinstein, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Paul Ryan. These people are puppets, and you can see how malleable they are in the bogus words they speak. Their words are nonsensical. Their words do not resonate with common sense. Putin's words resonate with common sense. Putin's words generally come from a place without a teleprompter. They come from his heart. They come from a place of common sense. The puppets in the West speak talking points. And Harley says that Obama in this regime, this U.S. imperialist regime, is very weak. And I think he's right. And one of the quantifiable ways we can show that, V, is with this recent news emerging from Cy Hirsch that the Pentagon, that generals within the Pentagon were sharing information and intel with Assad in Syria in an effort to derail this U.S. imperialist move by Obama to foster ISIS and to foster the toppling of Assad. So it seems to me, V, that there may be, in fact, some white knights alive and well over at the Pentagon.
Right, exactly, absolutely. There are good guys in every facet of this whole thing. See, that's why some conspiracy theorists will take that news that you just said and say, oh, those guys are playing for a greater agenda. Folks, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. I mean, if what a lot of people are saying in terms of absolute control and absolute domination is true, then we should already be under this new world order, and we're all screwed. But that's not the case. You got guys who are top-ranking, intelligent human beings that are working diligently at great risk to their own personal safety and or careers to do what they do to derail this thing. This is not dude, well, here's what the New World Order is. It's a bunch of decrepit, sick deviants. Mm-hmm. We're a bunch of old guys who've never gotten to a fight in their life. That if you were to line them up, Sean, and threaten to punch one of these guys, they'd go immediately into a fetal position and start quaking. That's who the New World Order is. And why are we scared of these guys? I mean, come on. I mean, Harley's right. If folks want to get active and derail this thing, now's the time to do it. And you do it through the local elections. You do it by voicing your discontent. And let me tell you something about discontent. It is rapidly spreading. You got Donald Trump out there, right? He is, call it what you want, the man is ultimately a symptom of the anger that is felt by millions of Americans. When you got George Soros out there with whimpering words telling people to, be careful of Donald Trump. This guy's Soros is freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Look what Brzezinski, that scumbag.
Mm-hmm.
What did that scumbag say a couple months ago? It's easier to kill 100 million people than govern 1 million people. I mean, think about this. These guys are scared crapless. Then you have this New World Order wench called Hillary
Mm-hmm.
out there running and talking about foreign policy. I mean, this is it's a joke. These people have no credibility.
Yeah,
None.
she's a pure demon. I mean, Hillary
She
Clinton, in my
is.
mind, is one of the most evil people walking the planet today, and it stuns me that she can still be named by the Mockingbird mainstream media as a viable candidate, as the lead candidate for the Democrats. It stuns me, V. These people should have imprisoned her by now.
Absolutely. They should throw her in jail and throw away the keys.
They should, and so it's interesting to hear you talk about Trump because I do agree with you, V. He is symptomatic of the anger that is
Yeah.
swelling in this country, and it's high time the American people get angry about endless wars, about wars without end, about unconstitutional trade agreements, about things happening behind the door, about politicians saying they're going to do one thing, and then when they get elected, they do another. Case in point, Paul Ryan. There's
Uh,
so much evil within our government, but I think the good news, V, and you've really hit the nail on the head here, V, is that the men behind the curtain have been revealed for what they are. And their puppets are all being revealed for what they are. Dianne Feinstein, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Barack Obama, Paul Ryan. These are puppets, and they're evil puppets, and the whole world can see it now. The whole world can see this charade, and the charade is starting to fall apart.
yes, it is. Absolutely. And that's the thing people need to realize. It's we're winning here. We're on the winning side of this. And history, people look at what's happening with the BRICS. People see what's happening with the Eurasian trade zone, the Chinese, the Russians, and they're thinking it's the end of the world. Folks, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's history repeating itself. It's the world rediscovering balance. And like we said earlier, you could push the boundaries of as that gentleman said, financial mother nature or economic mother nature.
Yeah.
But at some point, order will be restored, and you could only scam, lie, cheat, kill, manipulate the numbers as much as you can before the rest of the world wakes up and realizes the emperor has no clothes and they're done playing this BS nonsense. And that's what we're seeing, Sean. We're seeing a complete realignment, going from fictitious falsehood into actual truth and reality. So
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, no, it is good news, and I see China forgiving loans and forgiving debt to nations as the IMF tries to enslave nations. I see the
Yep.
same thing from Russia. I think Russia forgave $35 billion in Cuban debt last year.
Yep.
I see actual quantifiable evidence of what you're talking about. This is not hyperbole. We're seeing an actual move back toward a value of humanity by these other nations. And this country really, at this point, is standing as an adversary against humanity.
Yeah,
And
we're the evil empire.
we're the evil empire. But, I do think that there is a chance that the phoenix can rise from the ashes and liberty can rise from the ashes here in this nation as people like you and the Oath Keepers and all these people that I talk to and all the people listening stand up and take action and actually point the finger at these puppets, get them out of office, and put them in jail. Hillary Clinton at the top of the list. Last question for you, and I wasn't even going to bring it up, V, because I know it sounds a little cliche at this point, but it's always darkest before the dawn. What's your take on $13, $14 silver and gold as a hedge against economic collapse?
I think I love these low prices. I love it. I'm buying it up at a rapid clip. I think it's a great time for people to go in and if you've been sitting on the fence to buy more silver, here it is. Because my thing is this, folks. Remember this. There's one thing. I think it was Salmon, one of the U.S. Treasury secretaries back in during Abraham Lincoln's administration, I believe. He said it best. The fluctuation is never in the metal; it's in the currency. So remember that, folks. The fluctuation is never in the metal;
Hmm.
it's in the currency. So you have a fictitious number, like $13 an ounce silver. It really, I know it means jack squat because I'm looking at it at this way. I'm able to buy a asset that, in my views, right now should be at least $150 per ounce for 13 bucks. What a value! What a value! I'm buying an asset which I know that in no time will be $400, $500 an ounce for $13. What a value! I can get an asset in which I know would be soon when this whole thing is finally said and done, could be $1,000 per ounce for $13 per ounce, what a value. Where do I begin? And the same thing applies for gold. If you can't get an ounce of gold, my God, get some fractional gold. I mean, there's some really good fractional pieces out there. If you can find it on eBay, or if you can just join up, it's a free program. You go in this thing called Carrot Bars. You can actually get a card that's laminated with LBMA certified and serial number gold that has all these security features on it that you can keep in your wallet, and that's like 50, $60 for a card for LBMA certified gold. You can get it that way. So there's so many opportunities for people to get it as little or as much as they want. I think it's a wonderful time, folks. Don't let the fake numbers. You see, my thing is this: uh, everybody listening to my voice knows that a 17,000, 18,000 point Dow is absolute bullcrap. It's BS. Everybody knows it. But all of a sudden they see $13 an ounce silver and they want to get depressed and they want, all right, why did I buy this? I mean, come on. What's with the double think? Do you see that, Sean? There's such double think within our community.
Within our community and nationwide, the Patriot Act, the Freedom Tower. It's always a joke played on the people, isn't it? And the same joke's being played on the people here with our monetary system, V. We're gonna make people believe that fiat dollars have value and always will, and gold and silver are valueless.
Exactly. And that's the double thing. These people know that 18,000 point Dow is BS. They know it. They know the economy is fake. But they see $13 an ounce silver and they're like, oh my God. I can't believe it. I bought silver, now it's $13. Oh, what am I gonna do? But you already know the narrative. So why are you freaking out? You know what I'm saying? So you bought silver at $40 or $30 an ounce or $20 an ounce. It dips to 13. That's not a sign for you to go sell it. Don't be like an American retard who buys high and sells low. You don't want to do that. This is an opportunity for you to, okay, fine, I'm going to go out and get more. Why? Because it's a hard, tangible asset, and from all the research I've done and I've been doing, and all the guys I've been listening to, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get more, because it is right now a smash and grab and a race for hard assets.
Yeah,
that's what people should be thinking about. It's the wrong mind frame. It's unbelievable. So it's you need to, people who listen to my voice, you're still on the fence with silver. You're crying about $13 an ounce silver, and you're probably crapping a brick right now, and you're wondering if it's going to go to $9 an ounce. Okay, what narrative? Or I'll put very bluntly, whose report are you going to believe? Right? Whose report are you going to believe? That's what it comes down to. I think that's what God, told the Israelites. Whose report do you believe? Right? Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing. Whose report are you going to? You're going to believe the 18,000 point Dow, the 5% unemployment rate, the 2% inflation. Mm-hmm. You're going to believe that narrative, or you're going to take this as an opportunity to shore up for what is to come.
Yeah, that's right. And I would just leave people with this. The dollar is strong today. It's maybe the currency of last resort for, people around the world who want to get out of their crashing currencies. But everyone needs to remember that Economist magazine from 1988 and the gold medallion around the phoenix's neck marked 2018. Get ready for a world currency. It's coming, guys. And when it does come, what will the dollar and the fiat dollars in your pocket be worth then? And how much will silver and gold be worth in the real world? That's the question. And guys, I get a lot of requests saying, put up a donate button. We want to support you. If you want to support me, click the banners above. You can buy some gold and silver from our friends at SD Bullion. And I would be remiss not to ask you, V, how can we support you? I know you've got that great website, roguemoney.net. Is there anything listeners can do to help support you, or just tell us more about your website?
Yeah, the website is roguemoney.net. Check it out. I mean, I write for it. A couple of really great writers, guys like Ken Shorjan, James the Russian Analyst, Wolf Gray. These guys are all guys with like history and economic backgrounds and work in the financial industries. They write it there as well. It's only $2.99 per month. It's dirt cheap. It just takes care of the server costs. We're not looking for 1,000,001 members. I mean, it'd be nice. But it's just a really amazing community. And the best part about Rogue Money is the people there, is the members there. They're just very interactive. It's a great site, and you can follow me on Twitter at the Rogue Money, and hopefully in the future have a YouTube thing up. That'd be cool. And that's about it. And I have a radio show every Friday night between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Freedomslips.com will probably be the best way to find me for the radio show. And Sean, I need to have you on soon.
Well, that would be great, V. I'd really appreciate that because, you and I are kindred spirits, and it's always fun for me to talk to everybody I talk to, all the guests that come on, even if I've never spoken with them before, and you and I, of course, have spoken once before, it's easy to talk to somebody who understands the language, right? Because friends, family, neighbors, colleagues, so many of the people that we see in our daily lives, they don't understand the language. They don't know what a central bank is. They don't know what fiat currency is. They don't know what real money is. They don't know what the New World Order is. They don't know who the Rothschilds are. But you speak the language, V, and it's just such a joy and an honor to have you on. So thanks again for your time.
It's my pleasure, Sean. Have a great day.
You too, and Happy New Year. Guys, thank you for listening. Happy New Year to the audience. We really value you and your comments over there at SGT Report and in the comments below on the YouTube channel. We very, very much appreciate you guys. You guys are going to be the last line of defense for liberty. So stand up, point your fingers at the real puppets, Dianne Feinstein, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Barack Obama, Paul Ryan. You can add to the list in the comments below. These are the enemies of freedom. These are the enemies of humanity. These are the people that need to be arrested and put in prison. And it's going to be for your kids and our progeny's sake that we all stand up and take our country back. God bless. I hope you have a very, very happy New Year. Happy 2016. V, thanks again. You're one of my last interviews here for 2015. Love you, man.
Love you too, Sean. Thank you, buddy. Have a great one. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, V. All right, guys. God bless. Bye-bye.